A lot of people talk about financial freedom, but few know the price of walking away from certainty to build something meaningful from scratch. For Sue Brenchley, that decision meant leaving corporate comfort behind to bet on herself and to serve others. Sue Brenchley didn't just build a business, she built a mission. From small team calls to million-dollar stages, from raising 4 children to mentoring thousands, her journey has been anything but ordinary. A 7-figure earner, a $1 million Hall of Famer, over 50 generations deep. But what drives her is far bigger than numbers. It's the women, the families, the freedom. She's led with love, she's built with vision, and she's earned every lesson along the way. In this episode of the Authentic Networker podcast, we explore the story behind her success, her struggle, her service, and the soul of a leader who's turned significance into her strategy.
Richard Bliss Brooke here. We are live.
We sit here today with none other than Mark Victor Hansen,
Bob Proctor. This is Kendra Hall.
Tanya Stringer,
Jeff Canfield,
DeWitt Jones,
James Clear,
Les Brown.
Hey everybody, Richard Bliss Brooke here with another Authentic Networker podcast. And if you don't know who I've got sitting in the studio, you're going to find out. One of the most prolific, powerful, maybe below the radar, silent and deadly network marketers on the planet, Sue Brenchley from Mountain Green, Utah, where she's up on the hill overlooking all the network marketers on the planet. Hello, Sue. Welcome to the Authentic Networker.
Hey, Richard. Thanks for having me.
I'm honored to have you. It's been too long since we've got caught up on what's going on with your empire in the ASEA company. Sue Brenchley is the top sales leader in 16-year-old ASEA, which based in Salt Lake or Boise? Salt Lake, I think, right?
Pleasant Grove, Utah.
Pleasant Grove, yeah.
Yeah.
Sue has been a professional network marketer now for like 34 plus years, but she's been dedicated to building ASEA for the last 16. And she's one of my favorite leaders in this profession because, you know, not a lot of noise, not a lot of social media fanfare, no drama, not a lot of switching companies every 3 or 4 years, even though sometimes things maybe aren't going as well as she's like. She just hunker down, keep to the basics. We're going to talk about the basics today. We're going to talk about what's working for Sue, what's always worked for Sue. We're going to talk about what's working for ASEA right now and our network marketing profession and how all of you can win, because, you know, Sue is just another example of the work is worth it if you do the work, and this business model works. There's just no denying it. And yes, you can point to as many people as you want that it doesn't work for, but, you know, you can choose to be one of those people, or you can choose to be one of the people that it works for, and all you have to do is do the work. And one of the things that I like to show people is the metrics and the numbers. And I know, Sue, you're not like a massive numbers person, and so you don't keep track of all this stuff, but you can generally maybe give people an idea. I think I asked you in the prelim how many people you personally enrolled in ASEA. Is that like 200?
Yeah, less than 200.
Yeah, less than 200, which that may sound like a lot to you folks, but in 16 years, that's really not hardly any people at all, right? Maybe the more appropriate question is, in your first 4 or 5 or 6 years of ASEA, how many people do you think you sponsored?
Well, the first week I actually sponsored 18 people.
There you go.
You know, because again, it's like when you're first making a commitment, your energy is there.
Right.
The first year, as we got into a pre-launch phase, you know, I made a pretty aggressive goal that I wanted to hit diamond before the end of the year, and I did. And, you know, probably within the first year, I would say 75 people.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah. Yep.
Most of the successful leaders that I interview, and I don't really judge their success until their fifth year, but if they're earning 10, 15, 20 grand a month by their fifth year, I like to analyze their stats, and I've interviewed hundreds and hundreds of them, and most of them enrolled 80 to 100 people in their first 24 months of their build.
Yep.
And, if you enroll 100 people, you might have 10 that end up building something, and you might have 3 or 4 that build something significant, and you probably got one that created half your business. I don't know how that always seems to work out that way, but it does. But of course, if you only enroll 20, well, you're going to have to depend on a lot of luck. And so, Sue, one of the things you and I love about network marketing is this model, the rule of the model that everybody can enroll other customers. So if I'm a customer, I can enroll other customers. And if I make you a customer, you can enroll other customers. And that creates that exponential growth of the community, of the sales force, of the customer base, of the volume. And, on the back of the napkin, that's always shown as, 4 who get 4, who get 4, who get 4, who get 4. And never works exactly that way, of course. But so out of the 200 people that you enrolled, Sue, now you have generation upon generation upon generation. And how many levels of people do you figure you're getting paid on?
So levels, I'm actually touching probably somewhere around the 50th level in some way, because again, it's people and people and people, and our one bonus is paid out on generations rather than levels, and so that drives deeper into those levels.
Yeah. So if you're not quite connected on what does 50 levels mean? Well, just track with this. Okay, so 4 who get 4 is 16, and that would be 16 on your third level. And if 16 get 4, that's 64 on your fourth level. And if 64 get 4, that's 256 on your fifth level. And if 256 get 4, that's 1,024 on your sixth level. And if 1,024 get 4, that's 4,096 on your seventh level. And it is possible after 16 years to get paid on 50 levels. In how many countries?
35. Yeah.
It's a shame it's such a bad model that doesn't work. So, Sue, tell us, what is your philosophy about how to make it work? How have you made it work? What is your leadership philosophy and style and work ethic? And give us, 2 or 3 principles that people can follow with patience and perseverance to make it work.
Well, and I think the simplicity, this is a simple business. It's not easy because people don't have a boss, and there's not the leverage of an instant paycheck up front. And so, this is a business of people and building belief into people. And so 2 things that I use that are very simple. The one process I call my CPR 1, 2, 3. That's our weekly flow model, if you will, which means CPR stands for connect and have conversations. P is present information and provide value. And R is get results and maintain relationships. So those are the 3 things that, and I look at principles versus techniques. CPR really is, I guess, a technique, but it's around the principle of how do we grow and manage people and introduce our products and bring value to the world. And, I heard so much during my career that so many people went straight for the invitation. They forgot that they needed to connect with the person before they invited them. And so we we end up in that model where it's like cells, and it's like, look, because I started in the 80s in this business, in the 90s, there was a lot of push on developing sales techniques. But yet, this business is all about the relationship. So the other thing that I do, I call it, I created a thing called P5 Nation. And I noticed that this number 5 was coming up everywhere and everything. There's 5 steps. There's 5-minute videos. 80% of your income is going to come from your top 5 people. There were just these things that over the years, I just went, this can really make a system. And so P5 Nation stands for people, products, purpose, plan, profits. And I look at it in those terms. It's like, in fact, when I first sat down with the founder of our company, before it was a company, and he was explaining to me what we had and why we needed to take this into network marketing, why you couldn't just go put it on a shelf somewhere. I called him one day and I said, I have to meet with you. He says, okay, come on down. We went in the boardroom and I took a bottle of our product and I slammed it in the middle of the table. And I said, Virtus, this is what I know. I know that you know that this product is going to change the world. I know you understand its value. I know there's nothing about this product that you are not passionate about. He's like, yeah, that's right. I said, this is what I don't know. I don't know if you understand that it's people that is going to get this product around the world. This product goes nowhere without people. And we got the best conversation that day to be able to sit down and really help him understand that nothing else mattered if we didn't take care of people first. And that's my philosophy. In network marketing, it's people first.
Beautiful. And yeah, that's such a great philosophy, Sue, because people are the drivers. And we've seen that. We've seen products that are really exceptional products. But if you don't have the right people and the people are not inspired, they don't drive it. Yep. And then we've seen really lousy products, but if people are inspired, empowered, they drive lousy products. So great philosophy. So speaking of people, a question that I get asked a lot, answer a lot. Not sure if the answer is any good or not because people keep asking. You must have an answer. How do you get the people motivated? How do you get them engaged? How do you get them to see what you see? How do you get them to go to work? How do you get them to keep working?
Yeah, this is one of the biggest problems is we think about motivating people. Instead, I learned years ago, we need to inspire people. And if I can inspire people, and I feel like the only way you can do that is getting really good at asking questions that engage them. If we're not engaging them, if we're not creating the ability for the, it's all about them. And so if you've got someone that's not motivated, not doing anything, then the expectation's wrong. And that's why somewhere within your system, you need to have a way to have what I call accountability meetings, where, these are not hardcore meetings. They're just simple. Where are we at? Where are we going? Are we on track? This is all about you. This is not about me. And so I'm going to work as hard to help you get your dreams met as you're willing to work for your own dreams. But it's not about me. It's all about them.
Yeah, one of my favorite questions to ask stuck people that have been around a while is, why did you join to begin with? What were you looking for? What was the initial motive, the initial idea, the vision? Because people lose it. right?
Yeah. Yep.
If they joined and they engaged for the first month, they saw something. They saw a possibility or a probability, but months go by and people quit and people don't show up and they lose the vision. And so you got to get the vision back. And it's not our vision. It's what do they want? Why did they join? What do they see? And then, of course, you got to be prepared for they're going to bring up, what frustrates them. And so how do you deal with that, Sue? When you start asking me those questions and I say, yeah, but I tried. Yeah, but nobody wants to. Yeah, but I don't have time. How do you deal with that?
So for me, and this was again something over 30 years ago, I just recognized right at the beginning that I had about 4 real solid weeks to figure out whether that person was going to engage past the decision to join or whether they were going to be a little bit harder. And I did that by having some weekly goals. That's why it's like a 15-minute accountability meeting, especially like in the first 30 days, you should have daily contact with them. It might just be a text message, but too often we think our job is done when they enroll, and it's not. That's when it really begins. And so that daily contact, that weekly accountability, where we're on track. I'm here to support you, but you've got to have the goals. And I realized that, and I just told them up front, look, the first week is a total guess. We don't know what's possible for you out of the gate, but we're going to find out in the next 30 days where your reality is. Because this is all coming down to what's that person's reality, where too many people in this day and age, it's just sign them up. You hear all the time, people, I signed up 3,000 people. Well, no, you might have made 3,000 sales. You might have sold a product 3,000 times. You didn't enroll people and onboard them and give them what they deserved. And so at the end of 4 weeks, that person's really engaged and knows their reality because we've worked through where their goals are going to be, or they're ghosting me because they don't want to face the fact that they didn't do what they agreed to do. Or, and so it's really easy at that point in time to just say, look, when this is something that you want to put the effort into, when you really want to build a business, like that's why on the 1, 2, 3 part, it's like somebody's going to be a consumer, somebody's going to be a connector, somebody's going to be a business builder. I don't expect the same thing from the people who just want to connect to make a little bit of money to the person who is serious about building a business. And if they're serious about building a business, then they're going to really be my partner, and we're going to hold meetings and we're going to drive activity because that's what it's all about. And we're going to create a culture where they want to be a part of that culture even more than they want the paycheck.
Yeah, so, one of the biggest challenges people have in leadership is when it's time for tough love, when it's time to hold people accountable, when it's time to call people out. Instead of doing that, what we tend to do is beg them to stay, which looks like accommodating all of their excuses and all their procrastination. So how do you deal with that? Like, when did you learn that lesson to move from an accommodating all excuses leadership style to not tolerating and having clear lines of accountability and expectation? Did something happen where you learned that lesson? Did you get coached into it? Or was it just organic over time, you figured it out?
Well, sometimes I still fall back into those patterns of people pleasing and not wanting to put that boundary down. Especially, I'll tell you the hardest part, and this is probably universal. When we're in momentum, we don't have problems. When we're in momentum, the energy is carrying us. Where you really run into this problem is when things aren't going as well. And we're all going to run into those times. And that's when, we think that it's leadership to be more accommodating, instead of, in reality, that's when we need to even get a little bit tougher and pull our boots up and go back to work and do the things that we need to do. And relationships, because this is a relationship basis, it depends on how long that relationship's been going. Some of these relationships, it's really hard to walk away when things have changed, versus, like even right now, I finally realized that I had some people on my team that just weren't, I love them to death, but they're not willing to work right now. And so I don't have to say, hey, we're parting ways. That's the good thing. We never have to fire anybody. We don't have to be, we don't have to be insensitive to their circumstances. We just need to recognize now's not the time where they're ready to run. And as soon as I said, okay, I need somebody new to run with, I need to go out and recruit some new people, guess what showed up? New people. And guess what that's going to do? It's going to incentivize and inspire teams that have kind of stopped or paused. Now all of a sudden they're going to get hope again, because they're going to watch this new growth happen. They're going to watch new leadership take place. And so, I think it's hard because, I tend to be more of an empath than anything else, and I feel sorry for people, but feeling sorry for people or wanting it for them more than they want it for themselves never works.
As a top leader close to ownership and management, how have you dealt with the downturns in ASEA? 16-year-old company, there has to be some years or seasons where things did not go well. How'd you deal with that?
We've had 2 times where we've went on, we haven't had significant declines. We've had kind of a flat space with small declines. And we're coming out of, this will be our first growth year, probably for 3 years. And most companies right now just went through the exact same thing. We all had to figure out how to survive COVID. We all, and some people got big bumps, but then they also had big falls. We didn't have that. I'm lucky that our company has been very financially, fiduciarily responsible, to not go into debt, to not try to grow too fast. One of the things, one of my red flags when I hear about it is, companies saying, hey, we did $1 million the first month. I'm just like, that's not, to me, the indication of legacy. And for me, it's like my last company that I helped, I was one of the founding distributors in 1998, so it's been 27 years now. I haven't missed a check in 27 years, and I really only built that company for 4 years, and then I had a 5-year period of time where, my family needed me, and we had a lot of deaths. And, what a great story to build something for 4 years, have that support you through some of the most horrific grief times of your life, be able to come back to the table and find yourself and all the new stuff moving through, and, then end up having the best, most productive years of your life, and still getting a check from that first company because I didn't go tear that one apart when I found something that fit me better.
And so that's just the perfect 4-year career, right? Build it once, get paid forever.
It is. But the company has to stay in business, and we need to create those expectations. I was thinking about this the other day, because right now, everybody has accepted the fact. I can't remember what year it all happened, but remember when all of a sudden auto malls started, and all the car dealers who were competitors with each other moved into the same vicinity, and now they call it an auto mall, and you can go from one to the other and you can find what fits you. And then restaurants started doing that. The franchised, if one lane's too busy going through, there's somebody else right next door. I think that network marketing is going to come into a time where we're going to stop being competitive, where we're going to stop this high school behavior of mine's better than yours, or, I mean, it's just, there are times when I just go, this is something where everyone deserves and everyone needs this bridge of income that is so incredible that, but we've got to honor each other. We've got to respect each other. I love the fact that so many of my friends and the people that inspire me are all leaders in other companies, and we share our secrets. I just got back from a mastermind where, we share our secrets with each other, and it is validating that we need to rise up and be that network marketing auto mall, if you will.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, beautiful. So speaking of network marketing, one of the things that you told me that ASEA has done that you're inspired by is, in the wake of all of the conversation about influencers and affiliate programs and hybrid programs, and network marketing doesn't work anymore and nobody wants to do it, and your company's doubled down on the model.
Yep.
Why is that? And what do you see for the future of the model?
Well, and I think I'm so grateful that they do feel that way. And it is tempting. It's really tempting to focus on just sales. And I think when we look at the model from an industry standpoint right now, I mean, we've had giants fall by the wayside because the only thing they focused on were sales instead of the leadership gap, instead of how many people are we developing. It's their paychecks that are going to secure our paychecks. So it's like, I don't look at my bank account as much as I look at my people's bank accounts and worry about their bank accounts, because I know mine's secure if theirs is secure. And that is, I remember reading John K. Lynch's book, The Greatest Opportunity in the History of the World. That was probably the pivot point for me as far as opening my mind to an entirely different future than school taught me. That, and I remember he had a company, what was it called? Millionaires in Motion. And I remember the day that I kind of got my ego in check because I thought he was all about the money, and too much time is spent on how we look and how big our bank accounts are. And even with the investment, like, we're turning this into a lottery when it's all about us versus when it's all about them and we are respectful and grateful for what this has given me. But I remember when he said that his goal, and the reason he named his company Millionaires in Motion, was because his goal was to have 1 million friends by the time he died. And he died in his 50s. He was young. He had cancer. But I remember watching the fact that his influence was so big. And none of us knew what his bank account was, and I'm sure it was gigantic. But it's who he was. And I think that's what, when I look at the old days, and some of those aren't that far ago, but you look at the Jim Rohns, you even look at MLM Nation, that was where I first saw you, was you were on stage speaking at MLM Nation, and it was all the people getting together for the industry. And that's where the growth, that's where the mindset is going to come from. And so companies that can stop looking at just sales. We have to have healthy companies. Don't get me wrong. There's no opportunity if there's not health in the company. But we also have to grow leadership. We have to expand and have not just recognize the people at the top, because they're the abnormal person. We need to really recognize those people. I say the sweet spot is 3,000 to 5,000 a month.
Sure.
3,000 to 5,000 a month changes lives. And whether that person ever wants to go beyond that and make a career move, that's the point where they can start thinking that. They can't think that the day they join. They can't go from registration to diamond. They have to take it in the steps, right?
Yeah, and those people that are in that level of income, they have enough income and enough stability and enough confidence now. They can really impact a lot of people around them. They can't get pushed around by the naysayers. They have it in their body and in their bank account that this works. You don't have to make 30 grand a month to know this works. 3 grand a month knows this works. And 3 grand a month is a lot easier to get to than 30. And one of the things that a shift that I have seen we've needed for a long time is we need a lot less emphasis on the 100 grand a month people and a lot more emphasis on the $1,000 a month people, including shifting the comp plans to accommodate that, and teaching those people that want to make 100 grand a month, the better way to make 100 grand a month than a comp plan that's tilted in that favor is by inspiring and empowering a lot more people to make $1,000 a month, which is going to grow your volume. In other words, get there via volume and retention than percentages. And I see that as a shift that is coming, is we're going to see these comp plans moving more towards the front where people can make money quicker and they can get to that sweet spot quicker. And the way people are going to make big money is build big teams with big volume. And the way you do that is it's all bottom up, right? You got to have people coming in and making money. Speaking of people coming in and making money, where I want you to leave people, Sue, is I would imagine most of the people watching this are relatively new and probably somewhat stuck. That's always the majority in our profession. So if you could speak to them for a few minutes. So let's say I'm new and I don't know what to do. Or let's say I'm stuck, which is the same as being new, right? You basically have to start over. What would you tell me, maybe even step by step? What should I do? What can I do to create some experience of this is working so that I don't end up roadkill?
Okay, so I'll just kind of take you through what I do with people as they come on board. Because you get stuck if you don't know what the next thing to do is. And, if you don't know what the next thing to do is, you need to go to your leader and say, what's the next thing I'm supposed to be doing? Leadership should know exactly the path that you go down. Now, it's true that some people have more influence, some people have more reach. It's all about, you've got to have new people to talk to every week. Maybe not every day, but at least every week. This is a business about new engagements, new conversations. You can't talk to the same people over and over. So that's the first thing. If you're not talking to new people and you don't know how, we need to fix that. One of the things I do, I call them my daily Ps, and that is Power Minutes, Power Hour PJs. So every morning my team starts with Power Minutes and I supply them. They just have to open their email and there's their Power Minutes to kind of get them awake and their brain in the process of thinking about winning. And then they've got to do at least 1 power hour a day. And a power hour consists of income producing activity. That's it. It's like this business will change your life if you can do 1 concentrated hour of work per day. 2 is better. 3 is going to get you farther, but it has to be 1. So you've got that. And then PJs, because everybody, they understand pajamas. So I created this little thing called PJs, which is plan, journal, sleep. So every night you need to know your plan for tomorrow. It takes 5 minutes. You need to journal what just happened today. Because again, if you're sitting there facing your journal and you did nothing today, that's a clue. Like if you don't have a journal and you don't have records of what's going on, by the way, this helps for your tax purposes as well, keeps you very compliant. But when you do those 2 things just before you sleep, you actually activate your subconscious level of function. Now, your subconscious, you've made a decision. You've decided on your activity for tomorrow. Your subconscious is going to go to work on your behalf to make things happen. When it's just random, your subconscious is not. It's working on your old habits. So you've got to create these new habits in order to have success. And yes, it's like anything else. It's like eating right. It's like sleeping enough. These are habits and they impact us, in a great deal. And I actually, besides the income producing activities, which are simple, I actually have people do 5 things a day. And that is 5 minutes of gratitude, 5 thank yous. Those 2 things create the right kind of energy, that law of attraction in your life. It's 5 minutes of legitimate social media. It's 5 minutes of work in your back office. You need to go log in every day. And too many people, they don't even go log in. It's like, just log in and look at these things, because again, you've got to show up for work. These are not hard things. You either still do or you used to show up for 8-hour days. Show up at just 5 minutes for your business. It will change your life. And so for me, it's the system that you are working on, what you're going to do. One other thing I'll share, because I tell people, I don't ask people the question, how much money do you want to make? But I do deal with money right up front, right out the gate the first day. It's like, look, there are 3 levels of income that we have to get you through. And what I want them to do is decide the date that they want that level. And it's simple. $500 a month, $500 a week, $500 a day. Those are the 3 income levels that most people in network marketing will achieve. $500 a month is the magic to keep people here.
Yeah, they don't quit. They're making
Keep
500 a
people
month.
on your product. Keep people at least somewhat engaged. The $500 a week, that's where you start hitting that $2,000 and $3,000 income. Now you've got decisions to make. You've got a confidence level. So that one, everybody who wants to and will make the commitment, I believe everyone can hit that one. $500 a day is 6-figure income. And there's much beyond, there's $500 an hour, but it's those 3. It's just those 3. And if they can, like that $500 a day, I tell people that's usually somewhere between 1 to 5 years. If you're experienced, I've seen people do it in a year, but most of the time it's more like 5. And what if it's 8? That's a lot of money. It's like the magic of network marketing is this residual income that is possible if you build the right way, build solid, and create that legacy for your family.
And you've done that twice, and you're getting paid from 2 of them.
I am.
Beautiful. Well, Sue, you are a champion of the network marketing profession and an unsung hero in our profession. Glad I got a chance to profile you again. And
Thank
those of you watching this interview, what do you do with it? Well, you've probably heard that we only remember 10% of what we hear 72 hours later. So imagine that we edited out 90% of the words and you only heard 10% of what Sue said. How much value would that be? Not a lot. So what's the first thing you could do with this interview? Well, you could watch it a couple of times a week for a month so you could own it, like remember it. And then you could share it with your team and then maybe have them do the same thing. Because until people own these ideas, these principles, the passion that Sue has, the experience, the wisdom, until they own it, they can't execute it for their own life. So just don't glaze over it. It's not entertainment. It's not, oh, thanks, Sue, that was great. You're really smart. Love having you. Study her, because she is access to extraordinary success for you and your team. Thank you, Sue.
Thank you.
Okay, gang, over and out from the Authentic Networker. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.